Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Okay, so today we are going to continue or do another video on the opinel edge test, toothy versus polished. We've got three pretty much identical opinel knives. They're all the high carbon blades. Two of them are the same model number, the other one's one model number bigger. They've all got different edge finishes. One's got a 325 grit diamond edge off of the DMT course. The second one has got the 6,000 grit edge off of the King KW65 Waterstone. And then the third one has got that same 6,000 grit edge off of the King Waterstone, but then it's been taken to a chromium oxide strop, and then linen, and then clean leather. You know, so that we've got a very polished edge, a very coarse edge, and then one right in between. This series of tests has been really fun. You know, we've cut rope, we've cut cardboard, we've cut a different kind of rope, we've cut rolled up t-shirts, rolled up jeans, cut a whole bunch of bags like dog food bags. I think we even did some can cutting, you know, just soda cans, things like that. And then today what we are going to do is, you guys notice that we're not in the shop, we're in my kitchen. And that is because today we are cutting up flower stems. That's right. So Monday, I think, is Valentine's Day. Today's Friday. Which, you know, I mean, especially you fellas, or, you know, maybe the ladies, anybody that buys flowers on a fairly regular basis, you know, Valentine's Day and Mother's Day are two of those 2 days out of the year that if you can, get your flowers early because they go quick. And then, you know, the best ones are got usually a couple of days before. So I'm a couple of days early, but that's okay. That way my wife, I'll cut these up, we'll arrange them, and then we'll leave them here in the kitchen, and that way my wife can enjoy them all weekend long, you know, because she works during the week, and then, you know, she's home on the weekends, and that way she'll get to enjoy, you know, the flowers when they're at their best. So anyway, so we have got some white roses and some lilies, and there's some other greenery stuff in there, and then we've got some red roses to mix in there with them. So first things, take the plastic off, and then rubber bands. I figured this would be a nice cutting test because, you know, the different materials that we get to cut. You know, all these flowers come with rubber bands and a plastic thing, and then the little bag that holds the plant food, you know, that goes into the vase, and then also cutting the stems also. Okay, so the rubber bands are the first thing. The 325 grit edge. Remember, this isn't so much a, you know, this grit edge is better than that grit edge, as much as it is just, you know, cutting with the different edges and seeing how they react in different materials. And then in something like this, I don't have a bathroom scale, so it's just going to be my kind of impression, and you get to see, you know, kind of sort of how much force I'm putting into each cut. So the rubber band cut, there's you know, a little bit of rubber band in there. It's being held pretty tight. So we'll take the 325 grit edge, and it slices right through it. I mean, there wasn't hardly any, the edge didn't slip. I didn't hardly put any pressure at all on it, but the second the teeth in that 325 grit edge, the second they grabbed onto that rubber band, it was over with. So now we'll do the 6,000 grit edge on this rubber band here. It's about the same size. Now see, this one I'm having to push a little, oh, now there it went. That actually cut the rubber band. There. So that edge is slipping just a little bit on that rubber band, but not a whole lot. So on this one, this is a different style of rubber band. Well, here, let's to kind of keep it even, we'll twist this rubber band up around my fingers, and then we'll kind of do the same thing with that polished edge. Now see that? It did slip a little bit, and then it made the cut. Okay, so that one, the polished edge, which would make sense because that polished edge really doesn't have any teeth anymore. The teeth being the grooves that are made by the abrasive as you sharpen. Okay, so now our next cut here, actually let's go ahead and catch up this one. Take that rubber band off. That's kind of a different one. Of course, it's kind of wedged up in there a little bit. Okay, now that all the rubber bands are off. Now we get to cut the plastic open. Okay, so the 325 grit edge, kind of spread the plastic over with a couple fingers just like you're opening up a deer or an antelope or something. Make that cut. Now the second that edge hit it, it started cutting. The 6,000 grit edge, we'll just kind of move it over a little bit. Now to get that cut started, it took a little bit more force, but but to continue it took less. Here's the polished edge. Now to continue this cut, I'm getting into the leaves here. To continue this cut is taking even less pressure, if I can get around the leaves, than the 325 and the 6,000. Boy, that cut's just going all over the place. Then the 325 and the 6,000 grit edge. Okay, but to get it started, it did slip a little bit. And we did see that when we were doing the bag cutting test. Actually, I'm not too sure that I published that one yet, so you're maybe getting a little bit of getting ahead of the game there. Okay, here's the food bag thing. So the polished edge slices right through it. 6,000 grit edge slices right through it, but a little bit more grabby. The 325 grit edge slices right through it, but even more grabby and aggressive. We take this. We'll fill that up. While we're waiting there, this is about the same kind of plastic, so we'll just pull that out of the way. And we'll go ahead and cut this bag of food open also. The polished edge goes through it. 6,000 grit. For cutting bags, if I had to pick one, you know, thin plastic like that, I almost pick the 6,000 grit edge. It's kind of a nice balance of, you know, a nice grabby, aggressive cut without being too aggressive. And you guys know how much I like my 325 grit edge. Okay, so we have got our water there ready for when we are. Okay, now we'll cut the roses. Now the way I do this is, you know, right before I cut, I take the whole thing, put it up against here, like on the edge of the table, and then kind of judge, you know, how much of the stem that I'm going to want to cut off. So let's put this over here. You know, usually I don't have anybody videoing me when I'm getting flowers ready. Okay, so I'm going to want to cut off about 3 or 4 inches. Okay, so a 325 grit edge. Nice clean cut. You can see the cut. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell any difference between that one and another one. Very little resistance. Yep. Let's try like a 2-finger cut. No, we're gonna need 3. Okay, goes through nice and easy. All right, now we'll do the 6,000 grit edge. Again, that was a really nice cut. Aggressive, but not quite as aggressive as the 325, which makes sense. Let's do one more with that one. Okay. Now we'll go with the polished edge. Now that was really surprising. That went through with quite a bit less force than the other ones did. Same way with that one. I would not have thought that. Yeah, that's really nice. Now that's almost completely backwards from what we've been seeing in fibrous type material with the 3 different edges. If you remember the rope and the t-shirts and the rolled up blue jeans, the polished edges, you know, they didn't do quite so well because, you know, there just wasn't a whole lot of tooth there. No, that's pretty good too. I'm really kind of surprised. Let's cut that up a little bit more. I'm really kind of surprised that that polished edge is doing that well in this particular test. Okay, so now let's grab this one. Oh, what's this? This is some kind of I don't even know what that is. Some kind of a clothy type material. I guess we can cut that up. 325 grit. Now the 325 grit edge is grabbing it and cutting it, but then it's kind of, you know, the fabric's moving out of the way. The 6000 grit edge, same thing. It grabs it and then it kind of moves out of the way. The polished edge is kind of trying to grab it, but not really. I guess we can roll it up. Okay, so it's all rolled up kind of on the loose side, so a 6000 grit edge. It is cutting through it. And it was actually grabbing a little bit, cutting, and then the material was kind of moving out of the way. So the 6000 grit edge, now see there, that just slips right through it. The 320 slips right through it, as in it's cutting it really efficiently. All right, now the 325 grit edge, now that is just chewing right through it. In fact, you can hear that cut being cut. I'm kind of thinking this is going to be, oh, you know what? Let's do all of them at the same time since we still got this rubber banded. Let's do a 325. Now this is, oh, that's probably going to be about 1.25 inches diameter worth of flower stems. And like I said, there's roses and lilies in here. So there's the 325 grit edge. If I cut this too hard, these things are going to be, if I cut it too hard, they're going to be over there. Nah, we'll go like this. Okay. The 6000 grit edge. There again, the 325 is ripping and tearing through them, and the 6000 is less. So the polished edge, now that's cutting quite a bit. You know, it's not near as aggressive, so I'm having to work at it a little bit more. And I think that's about as much of those as we're going to want to cut off. So let's go ahead and cut that rubber band. I think probably what we'll do here, let's do this the other way. Let's put these in here first, and then let's put the roses in. Usually I don't do any arranging. I just buy the things, cut them off, and then stick them in the vase and call it good. Okay, so I think as soon as we get done with this, I think what we're going to do is a fun one. We'll cut some of the leaves. And heck, we may even, I think we should have time. We'll cut some of the leaves, and then we'll grab a couple of petals and cut the petals. Okay. And those are actually pretty good looking flowers. Now, what I'm told is that the tighter the flower is when you buy it, the longer it'll last on the kitchen counter. Okay, so we got a leaf right here. Let's go 325. Now you can tell that's cutting pretty easy. All right, 6,000 grit. Now the 6,000 grit is not wanting to, oh, there it goes. It's not wanting to grab free hanging like that 325 grit edge is. See, it's slipping on the edge of the leaf. Now the polished edge, and see the polished edge, it's got no chance. I mean, I can't hardly even feel that edge biting the, you know, the edge of the leaf. I mean, now if you hold it up nice and close, no, if you hold it nice and close, it's, well, you got to get that cut just right. Otherwise, you get the cut started and then it tears the leaf. You get the cut started, like right there, and then see how it's tearing the leaf out of the way? Get the cut started, and then the leaf is tearing. Let's grab, that's the 6,000 grit. There's a fresh leaf. See, same thing. You get that cut started and then it tears. And the 325. The 325 is aggressive enough that it's cutting through the leaf the whole way, for the most part. Let's grab a there's a petal. Let's start with a 325 again. We'll hold on to the butt of the petal here and then just do the, okay, so the 325 is not wanting to cut it up in the air like that at all. That's a 30. 6,000 grit. Yeah, see, it's just slipping out of the way. And the polished, absolutely not. So now let's see if it'll do the same thing. Do the same thing as far as that tear out was concerned. So let's start up here close. This is the 325. Okay, that 325 is cutting most of it and then it tears out some, except for that time. There must be an art to cutting rose petals. Okay, we got a nice clean cut there and then it tore out. Here's a 6,000 grit. Oh, now that time I was able to get the cut going. Oh, here we go. Nope. Okay, so it's about half and half there. Now well, we're gonna need a new petal. Okay, now we need the polished one. There we go. Oh, no, see, it's doing the same thing. It'll cut, it'll get the cut started, and then tear it out on the side. So on that series of tests, it sure seems like that polished edge, like I said, that was, well, let's do a push cut. Maybe that's the answer. So if we take here and we do the push cut, it does shear through that real nice. Oh yeah, the 6,000 doesn't really want to push cut very well. And that, I mean, not like that polished one does. Now here's one last thing, I think. And that's going to be the surfaces of the cuts. Okay, so let's make a cut with that. Okay, that actually looks pretty clean. Clean as in like the edges kind of glisten a little bit, almost like they're polished with the 6000 grit. Now see, the edge of that cut looks even more polished than the 325. Now we're going to do a slicing cut with a polished edge, and it's even more so. Now let's do push cuts with all three of them. So a slicing cut is like that, and a push cut, you're just pushing the material through with no slicing aggression. Okay, that went through. Let's try that again. That went through pretty good, but left a little bit on the back. That was the 325. 6000 grit. Pushed through, but still left a little bit on the back. Still. Now the polished one. Now that polished one on that push cut right there is probably the best out of all three of them. But it's still leaving, you know, some on the back like that. So, yeah, like I said, in this series of videos, I'm trying really hard not to come to like any conclusions, you know, any definitive type conclusions. It's more just, you know, especially for beginners or folks, you know, that don't understand that sharp is sharp. Sharp has more to do with geometry, and then your edge finish defines, you know, how that edge cuts through different materials. The initial cut, okay? So the initial separating, you know, this part of the stem from this part of the stem. As that blade gets in, okay, that's what your edge finish has to do with, okay? Now, how that blade passes through completely through the stem has to do with how thick the blade is, and whether it's flat ground, convex ground, you know, that sort of thing. And then your edge finish, I mean, it has an awful lot to do with it, but at some point, your edge finish just kind of gets you into the cut, and your geometry takes care of the rest of it. Okay, so this is more of a, you know, let's just play around and see, you know, just cut a whole bunch of stuff with 3 different edges and see what we see. So, so I sure hope you guys are enjoying this series of videos. I'm enjoying them quite a bit. Hope my wife enjoys the flowers. And again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery, and visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.